Welcome back to Edgework here on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us here on every one of those days on the Edgework YouTube channel. If you don't want to miss a show, make sure to subscribe, and you can turn on notifications by clicking that bell so you get notified every time the show goes live, as well as our podcast that will be coming out later today with David Pagnotta, Dennis Bernstein, and Zach Bodenstein. They look around the league, all the stories going on, talk about some of the rumors, the injuries, and look ahead to the futures markets. But so money, we only got 3 games here tonight on Wednesday. Feels kind of weird, 3 games in the middle of the week, but we'll go through every one of the games. We'll take a look at some of the teams to make miss playoffs. But before we get into that, how's it going for you this Wednesday morning?
It's been good. Only 3 games, which is actually a nice little break for me. I plan my mornings around the NHL schedule, so it's I was actually able to sleep in an extra half hour this morning, so that's nice.
Very nice. And then I bugged you with the, hey, can you come on the show? So,
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
All good.
Are you a March Madness bettor? Is this something you get into, or is it kind of staying like on the perimeter more? It's here and there. What's your routine around March Madness?
So I do bet March Madness, but I don't originate myself. It is from my partners who I get the plays from. But I used to get into it a lot. I remember elementary school. We used to go to a buddy's house at lunchtime and like watch the games, or like sometimes if I could get away with pretending to be sick on that Thursday and Friday, I would. Similar to the trade deadline, but just like anything, as you get older, it just becomes just about how much money I can make off it. So like the fan of it has diminished quite a bit. But yeah, I do watch and I do bet it now.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's something I'm excited for. The March Madness every year is the one thing where it's just on in the background at least all day for me. So it's exciting to have that coming around the corner. And on top of that, we do have NHL playoff hockey getting real close at this point, which is very exciting. I mean, you're watching some of the games around the league and it's starting to feel more and more like playoff hockey. And with that being said, we will get into teams that will miss playoffs, or teams that we would look at to make them or miss the playoffs. Before we do, let's go through tonight's games. We got 3 games on schedule. We'll start with the first one here, the Minnesota Wild heading to take on the Winnipeg Jets. This is a big one for some playoff implications here. Minnesota is second in the Central right now. They're 2 points behind Dallas, They have the same number of games played. They're 3 points up on Colorado at this point, but they got 2 more games played than the Avalanche. You're looking at Minnesota, who's playing very well right now, 8-0-2 in their last 10. And Winnipeg is holding on to the second wild card spot in that West. They're 3 back of Edmonton, a point behind Colorado, 4 points behind Minnesota, same games played. You got them 2-6-2 in their last 10. They haven't been that great, but at home this year, 21-10-2. In this kind of position, you're looking at a big spot for standings, big spot for point movement. Winnipeg's a team who's been playing pretty well at home. Could they possibly be using this to their advantage tonight to be able to get out of this 2-6-2 run in their last 10?
So usually, when I see Fleury slated to start, I do want to fade him. But just like Markstrom that we mentioned on the show the other day, I am starting to see some positive signs from Fleury, and I mean, I saw him firsthand when he played against the Canucks last week as well. So I think that he's starting to get better, and a lot of that has to do with his workload is a lot less now, right? So
Right.
with the Gustafson taking over there, um, S- but I'm not rushing to fade Minnesota right now either. So I think that I'll be passing on this game. The total lined at 5.5. Usually, Flurry doesn't deserve a 5.5, but this Minnesota team, they're just an under machine right now. They've really tightened it up, and even though Winnipeg gives up more chances than they should, and Hellebuck is on a little bit of a dip right now. I still can't get on the over. So lots of conflicting numbers here for me, which is going to make me pass on this game altogether.
Yeah, we've talked about how the 5.5s are usually reserved for like two top tier goalies going head to head.
Yeah.
And this doesn't really feel like that spot, but where would it have to kind of get to for you to maybe even look at, like, would you consider an over in this one at any point? Is this just like, all right, I'm just going to stay away completely?
So I am a sucker for plus money totals. So if you can get me a plus money 5.5, um, I would consider the over. But
Right.
yeah, it it would have to get to that point. I see down to like minus 105, minus 104. Like even that's not good enough right now. I would need a solid
Okay.
plus money over to be able to bet that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we'll just let that be then as it is. But another game tonight, Chicago taking on the Detroit Red Wings, going to Detroit to face them. 6-4 in their last 10, and these are two teams that, well, we knew Chicago was out. They weren't going to be competing for anything this year, likely looking to sell guys, and then they did. Now they're kind of in a little bit of a fall off, other than their last 10, where you're looking at them 6-4, and they did just beat the Senators 5-0 the other day, but the Detroit team waving the white flag ahead of the trade deadline there, saying, all right, that's enough for us. We can't do it. Now on a 6-game losing streak, 3-6-1 in their last 10. At home tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. Is this price fair for you, so money, if you look at this one, looking at Detroit, minus 231 at home against the Blackhawks?
Yeah, so that stood out. It's not fair to me. I don't know in what world we're seeing Detroit at this number, but at the same time, this is what I always talk about as we wind down the season. You are gonna get edges on these dogs, right?
Right.
And then you have to decide that if um if it's worth betting it, right? At this point, let's face it, these are two garbage teams. There's a wide range of possible outcomes here, and it would not surprise me if the if if the Red Wings blew out the Hawks. It would not surprise me if the Hawks blew out the Red Wings. So um, there's something to be said if you have a wide range of outcomes, you do want to bet on the big dog. Um, I get it, but in this situation, it's another game. I'm just gonna have to pass. I can't. I just don't want to get involved in this.
We might have to we'll play it like we did on yesterday's show if you caught us there, where we're talking about the alt line in the Arizona game minus one and a
Yeah,
half. If anybody went and played that, you would have cashed yesterday. I believe they won
yeah.
6-2. Like, yeah. So there you go. Maybe that's the look that you got to take tonight. You look at Chicago minus one and a half against
Why
Detroit.
not? Why not? There's such a wide range here with these teams.
Yeah. Yes, there is. This could literally go any which way. But this last game that we have here tonight, you do have a best bet in Anaheim going to take on the Vancouver Canucks. In Vancouver tonight, the Canucks are holding on to a 2-game win streak right now, 5-4-1 in their last 10. Not the best home team here, 13-17-1 on the season so far, but facing off against an Anaheim team who's on a back-to-back. They just lost to Seattle last night, 5-2. They are 10-19-6 on the road this season themselves. Are you on the Canucks tonight so money?
So what's that old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? That's how it goes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I've been shamed for the last 30 years, and 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 we're gonna do it again, right? So it happens every year, right? This team goes on a run late in the year. You start believing just a little bit that maybe, just maybe, they've like this core has figured it out and they're like starting to get better and stuff. And then you look at their competition and then they played all shitty teams at the end of the season. And then you start the next season and it's back to where we were. So I haven't fully bought in and I won't. I'll really try not to. But for tonight, you see an Anaheim team that, granted, they have been playing well, like by their standards. We should see Dostal in goal, and he's he's not an NHL caliber goalie right now. With all due respect, and the Canucks, they've I mentioned this on Monday where they've really tightened up defensively. Of course, they ended up blowing a 2-goal lead in the third period again, but that was still a tight game. I don't think that there was much to take away from that negatively for the Canucks. So I do like them here. I like them in regulation. I think that they're on a positive trajectory right now, and I don't think they're going to have any problem generating chances. So, and with Demko in goal, it's a significant goaltending advantage. So I do like the Canucks in regulation. That 143 at Pinnacle.
Yeah.
I think I think we're good there. We are all Canucks.
All right, we are all Canucks. You mentioned something there. You said the Canucks are on a bit of an upward trajectory. Does that concern you at all as a Canucks fan sitting there watching
Absolutely.
this and seeing yeah, okay, I was going to say seeing the
Yeah.
chances for Bedard just slimming down as the season goes on and you're sitting there going, we're going backwards. Like, where are we going here?
Yeah. Look, after that Leafs game, I've I I went on a I went on Aaron Rodgers retreat. I sat back and I made peace with the fact that Bedard is not happening.
You had the
It's
ayahuasca sitting in the dark
Yeah,
room.
exactly. Like it's just not happening, and I have to get over it. So I've made peace with that, and at
Okay.
this point, I just want structure. I want Demko to stay healthy. I want the players that are going to be around next year to gain confidence within the system that Talkit wants to implement. I want stability, and I would like next year to be um, to get better bang for my buck for my inevitable Canucks futures that I'm gonna place in the summer.
So I really hate to do this to you, but this kind of feels like deja vu to when Bruce Boudreau came
Yeah,
in.
yeah, exactly. The Yeah, the only difference is that this is management's guy, so
Yeah.
I think that
Yes.
they'll be more inclined to make the necessary changes um, during the summer. Whereas last year, whether they want to admit it or not, I think that they let things go quite a bit with the thought of Boudreau not lasting the whole season anyways. So
Yeah.
we don't need to go out and make some wholesale changes. We don't need to mess up the salary cap too much because he's going to be the fall guy anyways. So I think that it'll be different this summer. Hopefully, I tell myself that every summer. So
Yeah. So
so
money, you
why
know
not?
what? Handshake, Leafs fans, Canucks fans, it'll be
Yeah,
different this year.
there you go. There you
There
go.
you go.
Yeah.
All right, I want to take a look at some of the teams to make and miss playoffs this year because we are talking about the fact that we have an actual race going on in the East. You're looking at a bunch of teams kind of piled up there outside of the wild card spot. We saw a big game last night between Buffalo and the Islanders that could have meant a lot for Buffalo's season so far this year. See some of the West teams, it's kind of starting to figure itself out there in the West in terms of who would get into the playoffs in general. Now the seeding there is going to be all different, but the East is almost the opposite. It's the inverse. The top 3 in each are basically set, and now it's who's going to make the wild card, who's grabbing the last spot. So I grabbed a couple teams here that I have my eyes on for make miss playoffs. I grabbed prices for them. Now, mind you, for anybody who's out there listening or watching, some of these prices you will be able to find better elsewhere. So make sure to shop around, look other places to find these prices. I just tried to find some consensus prices that were at least middle ground generic here for this, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, so Money, on some of these, and we'll go through, and if you have other teams that you'd be looking at. But I pulled up first and foremost Pittsburgh Penguins to make the playoffs right now, minus 400, to miss the playoffs, plus 300. Now, this Pittsburgh team is currently sitting in the second wild card spot in the East. They're a point back of the Islanders, and they're 3 points back, or 3 points up, on the Panthers, 5 points up on the Sens, 5 up on the Sabres, and the Capitals as well. So those teams that are kind of below the Panthers there are a little bit further off. But some of those teams have games in hand. A bunch of them have the same amount of games played. I kind of thought that Pittsburgh plus 300 to miss the playoffs was longer than I had anticipated when I first pulled them up. Would you say that it's probably about fair at plus 300 for Pittsburgh to miss the playoffs? Like, where would you kind of look at, especially considering some of those teams behind them?
I think it's fair. I've mentioned before that I am higher than most on the on this Pittsburgh team, and a lot of that comes down to I give them a lot of breaks for all the all the defensemen that they've had missed games, and as well as Jari not being in there for a few of the games. So I do give them breaks in that sense. I do think they're starting to play better. So I think it's fair. I think that Pittsburgh will get into the playoffs. But I mean, you can definitely make a case. I look at their schedule here. Um, it's not a very difficult schedule. They do have the Rangers 3 times, um, a couple of the good Western teams, but they have a bunch of they have Columbus, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia a couple of times. Montreal's in there, so I mean, I think that Pittsburgh gets the job done eventually, but it's not something that I'll be betting on at the would you say minus 400. So that's not.
Yeah, minus 400 to make the
Yeah,
playoffs right now.
yeah, I wouldn't do that. But I do think the Penguins will they will make it though.
Okay. And now the team ahead of them, the New York Islanders, you're looking at them a point up. They have played 3 more games than the Pittsburgh Penguins have. And some of the teams behind, I mean, immediately looking Florida, they played 1 more game than 3 more games than Ottawa, 3 more than Buffalo. That's obviously going to be factored into this. It makes sense as to why that's kind of sitting there right now. But the Islanders right now to make the playoffs plus 100, and they are sitting in the first wild card spot. Is this a team that we think could potentially be falling out of the playoffs at some point here? Odds obviously indicate that it's more likely than not that they would, but if you're looking at this Islanders team, like, how much faith do you have in them yourself?
I don't have much faith in the Islanders, but I will say that the last few games, they have shored up defensively. They're really limiting their chances now. So, and that's what they needed to do. Eventually, I think the games in hand that the other teams have will be too much to overcome for the Islanders. That said, those games in hand don't matter if the Islanders keep winning,
Right.
which they're doing right now. So um, I have them at exactly. If you're looking just at the numbers, I have them exactly at 50% to make the playoffs, right?
Okay.
And then I look at their schedule, and they don't have a tough schedule either, right? So I'm I'm torn because my numbers say 50-50. The way that my perception of this team says more likely that they miss the playoffs. So when those two elements are butting heads, that's another one that I can't recommend anything there.
Okay, fair enough. And the final East team I have interest in, especially at this point, it's kind of become a team it's fun to watch. We did see them lose 5-0 to the Blackhawks the other day, which
There
is a
we
little
go.
bit shocking based on where they were at. But the Ottawa Senators plus 500 to make the playoffs right now. To miss the playoffs, they would be sitting at minus 800. This Ottawa team, I sound like a broken record as I continue to go through the points and stuff, but sitting here looking at them, 5 back of Pittsburgh, 6 back of the Islanders. They've played the same number of games as the Penguins have. They have 3 in hand on the Islanders and behind the Panthers right now, 2 points behind them, but they have 2 games in hand on the Panthers. This is now a fun team to watch. They're exciting. They get Jacob Chikrin in there. All of a sudden, it seems like they've got some energy, some excitement around them. That obviously doesn't necessarily translate immediately to wins and success and making the playoffs. But watching Ottawa with these new additions as they approach the playoffs here, could this be a team that we see push up into one of the wild card spots?
Yes. So I did bet Ottawa. I mentioned this a few days ago at plus 925.
Yep.
Um, it dipped, and then the Chicago game brought them back up a bit. I don't really take much stock into that Chicago game. It happens. They've been playing well, and just shit happens, right? But
Yep.
they're on a big road trip here, which I think is gonna make or break their season. I have them at 18% to make the playoffs, and you said plus 500
Yeah, to make.
is the consensus price. So yeah, so shop around. You should be able to get plus 500. Plus 500 brings us to what about 16-17% implied probability. So um I do have them 18%. If you can get them, if you can find a better price, I do still like Ottawa to make it. Of course the edge is smaller, but I do like them to make the playoffs. Their schedule, it the rest of their schedule doesn't matter if they don't do well on this western road trip that's coming up. So I think that um, if you want to get ahead of them, if you think they'll do well on this Western trip, now is the chance, because if they do have a good trip, then those odds are going to start really plummeting.
Right. All right. So there could be your last opportunity to get in on Senators to make the playoffs at any type of reasonable price right now. Plus 500 for the Senators. That pretty much does it for me in the East for teams that I was interested in, especially where their prices are sitting at, kind of ones that jumped out. But heading over to the West, there's really only one right now for me that is interesting that popped up. To miss the playoffs, the Winnipeg Jets plus 190. To make the playoffs, minus 230. I do think the Winnipeg Jets will still be able to get into the playoffs here, but even looking at the standings as it is right now, if you're just considering the wild card positions, they're 4 points up on Calgary. They have a game in hand on the Flames. Can't really imagine the Flames doing anything to go on any type of tear. They haven't really shown at any point this year that they have that in them, but they could. It could happen. It's not to say that it wouldn't. And the Jets haven't necessarily been that good lately. You're looking at them, as we talked about, 2-6-2 in their last 10. If they couldn't figure things out and dial it in, you could see them start to taper off a little bit. Maybe you get into a position where Calgary can leapfrog them there. But do you think that there's any chance that Winnipeg's missing the playoffs this year? Well, I guess that's the wrong way to put it. Not is there any chance? Yes, there is a chance that they're missing the playoffs, but sitting at like plus 190 to miss the playoffs, is that reasonable for what their chances are to miss the playoffs?
Logically, you could make the case for them to miss the playoffs. Um, in reality, though, I have them. Um, I have them 77% to make it. So it's at 23% to miss. So 190 is not enough. Um, and a lot of that goes towards how I feel about Nashville. It's no secret how I feel about this Predators team. Um, Calgary as well. I think that Calgary just got themselves in too big of a hole. We did mention Markstrom. I'm seeing good signs from him, so maybe he's going to start playing better. But even if he does, I still think that they just dug themselves in too big of a hole now to recover. Um, Hellebuck, we talked about a little bit of a dip. He just needs to bring his game up just to his baseline. And if he plays at his baseline the rest of the season, Winnipeg should have enough to make the playoffs. So I see your point. You could make a case for Winnipeg to miss the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if Calgary caught them, but I need better than plus 190 for that to happen at this point.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. That's what I was kind of looking at, is just the argument of it of, well, even you said it now twice now, is like Markstrom, we're seeing him play a little bit better, starting to get some improvement. Maybe they go on some type of run. You maybe rattle off 4 out of the next 5 or
Yep.
something like that, and you're kind of sitting there looking at, whoa, maybe we got a shot. Maybe Winnipeg continues to falter, but definitely the price sensitivity is the most important part here. So plus 190 to miss the playoffs, not good enough for us today. But for anyone who did tune into the show today, was looking at the picks, just a reminder that all of the picks are now, the pending wagers are now hidden on the BetStamp app until game time. So if you want to see the picks, you got to go to the show, or you could listen to it on podcast and find them all there. We give them out throughout the course of the show, but at the end of every episode, I guess you could call it, we'll recap all the picks that were given out today. And for today, there is one best bet. Tonight, so money, we are all Canucks. We're taking the Vancouver Canucks in regulation, minus 143 against the Anaheim Ducks at home tonight. So that is our one official best bet for the day, still remaining with some of these futures in hand here that we've got sitting there. Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup winner, Minnesota Wild Stanley Cup winner. I believe there is, Carolina Hurricanes Metro Division winner still sitting there. So some of the futures still waiting. But tonight's official bet, Vancouver Canucks in regulation over the Anaheim Ducks, minus 143. So thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. So Money, thank you for hopping on. Appreciate you taking the time to do it. Appreciate the insight today. For everyone else out there, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the content, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit like on this video, and I will see everyone back here tomorrow morning with So Money and Russ at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Good luck on your bets tonight.